Thank you. I'm Josh Peck. I'm the leader of Hamlets Lead Labour Councillor, and I've got on record our total opposition to these cuts. We think they're wrong and we think they're misguided. I'm also a Borough councillor. I represent the Borough residents who will feel the impact of this the most. And there are 2 points I want to make. The first is, in your own London Safety Plan, draft London Safety Plan, on page 12 and page 16, you draw a very clear link between deprivation and the risk of fires. And yet you are choosing to target your cuts not only on Tower Hamlets, but on Hackney and on Newham as well, the 3 most deprived boroughs in London. Why is it that you haven't taken deprivation properly into account in drawing up these closures? And secondly, Commissioner, you were very, very careful to always talk about average times and not actual times. And you must have done the modelling to show what the actual impact will be on those fires currently served by the Bow Fire Station that will in future not be served by them. So can you tell us what will be the difference for those call-outs that are currently served by the Bow Fire Station? What will their reduction in attendance time be in the future?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Peck. Mr. Peck.
Do you like that?
Yes, just Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, John Biggs, local assembly member, and also, as I said, the candidate to be Mayor of Tower Hamlets for Labour in May next year. But also three things. The first is I chair the budget committee at City Hall, so I just wanted to confirm what Fiona Twycross has said. And I think I'm respecting that role as being a fair-minded bloke who doesn't play party politics with the committee. There are many ways of cutting the mayor's budget, which I mean, slicing it up and allocating it. And these cuts to the fire budget are not needed this year. If you were to simply not carry out the 1% cut in the tree set, that would remove most of the need for making a saving this year. That wouldn't cover all of the savings required in your projections. I do understand that. But there are many other sources. There are £14,000 million going through City Hall's budgets every year. And for me, this is a priority, the fire service, the safety of my constituents, Londoners. Second point is we've already lost a fire engine in town. In the recent past, we lost one of the fire engines from Bethnal Green. And there was a lot of agonising about that, and there was a lot of opposition to that. We understood it was going to be deployed to another part of London where it would improve the response times. And, you know, some people said, well, we don't want to lose it, but London as a whole is quite important as well. And it was a hard-fought argument. We think we've already made savings in Tower Hamlets and these are unnecessary. But the third one is about Bow in particular. And I was really struck by your map because it shows if you close the fire station in Bow, there are bits of Bow that are further away from a fire station, just about anywhere else in this very dense part of East London. And we have a growing population, high density dwellings, high rise dwellings. To my mind, a fire in a farmer's field is less priority than a fire in a high rise building. The urgency of a fire in a high rise building where people will be vulnerable clearly requires an extra response. It requires, I'm pleased you respond in 4 minutes in Southwark. I hope you continue to respond in 4 minutes in Bow, but I don't think you will be able to after these cuts. So Bow becomes a desert. Combine that to the traffic problems in our borough as well. And there are times of day, you can look on a map, Bethnal Green is not very far away, but there are times of day when it would be very hard to get an engine there within this sort of response time. So Josh Peck has talked about response times in Bow. I think that you need to come clean about what they would be, and you need to revisit this cut. It is not necessary, and it's not in the interests of the public and people who represent this.
A couple of questions there. The Mr. Peck's point about deprivation and the link to fires and average and not actual modelling. Would you like to address those, please?
Okay, yeah, I might start now. In terms of the way we looked at fire analysis, a couple of very fundamental important points. First of all, is it really clear that fire coverage was just strategically across the whole of London, not on a borough basis.
So you pull the mic forward.
Oh,
Hear you, sorry.
Is it better? Yeah, okay. The first point to make, which I think is an important one, because we do sometimes get lost in a very local discussion, but actually fire cover is provided strategically across London. It's a London Fire and Emergency Planning Authority, not a borough level of authority. I think if you look at the information which is contained within the plan about the distribution of resources, I think you'll see that even after these proposals, Tower Hamlets as a borough is still very high up there in terms of the amount of resource London Fire Brigade is proposing to deploy in the borough, and also the attendance standards that will be achieved. There are boroughs that are way below Tower Hamlets even after our proposals. The other thing I think which is important, if you look at the statistics we have there, inevitably there are links between certain things and incidents of fire, but it's more about lifestyle and things when you look in the plan. And actually, when you look at the information in relation to population growth and housing growth into our hamlets, at the same time we managed to reduce the number of incidents with 10 by 49%. So whilst there is a link, actually, and we believe that the number of fires that occur in any location is much better controlled by proactive means in terms of awareness and responsible behaviour by social landlords and other landlords, awareness about fire risks, fire injuries and fire things in terms of the residents as well. So whilst I completely accept your point that 3 fire engines out of this borough feels like a big loss, yeah, but in terms of the strategic cover across the whole of London, it needs to be taken in that context as well. But I do completely understand in a local area, people are inevitably going to feel that it's a big chunk to take out. The second part actually, was that again, Dom?
It was about average against versus actual.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, the information in terms of at a lower level, once there's, well, first of all, there's lots of information in the plan about the borough level and what the changes the projected changes will be. On our website, there's also a significant amount of other data in relation to changes at a ward level. Now, I haven't got all that in front of me now, and I couldn't go through every ward in this borough off the top of my head in terms of the impacts, but all that information is available on our website. So at a very local level, you're able to see exactly what we at least project the changes would be. And if you haven't got that information, I'm happy to send it to you tonight. But certainly it's available on our website at a much more detailed level than is in the plan itself.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Chairman, I don't know if you'd like to answer Mr Biggs's first point about there's different ways to slice the cake, different ways to find the money.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are always, as John said, there are always different ways that you can divide up budgets. But the simple fact of the matter is, right across both public services in London and public services more broadly, organisations are having to make savings, and I think it would be unrealistic for me to put forward a proposition that the London Fire Brigade should be immune from taking its part in those reductions. And if we, from my point of view, projecting forward, if we were to take a slice out of one of the other areas of London government budget and cross-subsidise London Fire Brigade, the message we'd be sending to government is we don't need your money to pay for London Fire Brigade, and that would open the door for future funding cuts. I don't want to go down that particular route. John also was very, very careful, as was Fiona, in the way they phrased their discussion about the budgets. They talked very much about this year, this budget year. The simple fact of the matter is the changes that we're proposing with regard to the number of stations and the financial savings that will generate is to close next year's budget gap. We can do this year's. We're making the changes in this year so that we're in the right financial place for next financial year. There is no way that we could cover our budget gap the next financial year if we didn't go down this route this time, and we would be left staring down something like a £30 million shortfall between our grant and our expenditure, and that's a figure that we can't cover just by the kind of shuffling around of budget lines that was done in the Assembly in the spring.
Shuffle some from the police. You gave some to the police last year.
We've had that money back. We basically the mayor supported the police for a couple of years with regards to the budgets, but actually the last couple of budget years, actually the differential between our budget changes means that basically we've got that money back through.
If the mayor believes it's absolutely a no-no to cut police numbers, why is he happy to cut crime?
Because crime hasn't halved in the last 10 years. Crime hasn't halved in the last 10 years. If the police had been as effective at getting ahead of their problem as the firefighters in London have been, if we'd been able to drive down crime over the last 10 years whilst Ken was mayor, etc., and the way the fire brigade driven down fires, we'd probably been able to make that kind of saving. I disagree.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Commissioner, Mr Biggs's second point about Hamlets has already lost a lorry.
Yeah, Bethnal Green, the pump from Bethnal Green was removed under London Safety Plan 2 back in 2006, and I remember the meetings we had at the time about that. The same type of modelling, or the same process for modelling that we used then to identify where we should take pumps from and move them to, is exactly the same modelling we've used this time round. And all the projections that we made then in relation to attendance times, incidents in this local area, have been proved actually they were very well conservative in terms of small c, in terms of the projections actually achieving better than we projected there. These changes are for a number of reasons, and obviously they are budget driven as well. So as I've been really clear in terms of the significant impacts on these changes, are one about improving the safety of London, and also about balancing the budget that I've been given or been given to me by the Mayor. So in terms of the attendance time local, I'm very confident that we still will meet our attendance times and the targets we're setting ourselves. Yes.
Okay, thank you.